My name is Josh Geiger, the Plant Ninja, and I'm super happy to be having this casual yet informative, enlightening conversation with Toni. And I've just recently met Toni, and whenever I saw her on the Facebook, I saw she was like, oh, she's 38. She's been vegan for a long time. She was, transitioned to raw foods, high fruit. I was thinking, wow, she has so many things that are like exactly like reflect my own journey, even with my age and how long I've been vegan and my raw journey, etc. I was just like, wow, it's amazing. So I sent her a message and we decided instead of doing like a real formal sort of interview situation that we would have somewhat of a conversation, get to know each other a little bit more, and in the process share some gems about our journeys. And so here we are. Toni is a high fruit raw vegan women's health coach and an amazing model of health and beauty on a raw food diet. Really excited to talk to you today. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an honor. And it's great to meet you as well. So it's our first conversation actually in video. So we've been messaging only a couple of times. So it's nice to finally actually, because we was arranged before Christmas, wasn't it? And it just got a little bit crazy. Was it after Christmas?
No,
It's
it was
time's just gone
before.
so
Yeah,
fast.
it
It
was
was just
before.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fast. Where's the time gone? Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing, my story and also hearing yours. I've got lots of questions to ask you as well.
Okay, amazing. Well, that's how we'll start with. Um, we're just gonna kind of free flow with this, but I would love to just hear a little bit about your journey, however far back you want to start, because that's always the funny question is like where to start. But to hear a little bit about your journey, how you got into transitioning, how that progressed to the fruit and the raw, some of the challenges you maybe faced beforehand, and some of the breakthroughs and just amazing things you're enjoying now in your health.
Yeah, it's been definitely an interesting journey. I've come from a background of binge eating, food addiction, like most of us, comfort eating throughout my 20s, just never really feeling good enough, never really satisfied, never fulfilled, didn't really enjoy my lifestyle. I was discovering. It was a lot of self-discovery. I would say my 20s I found now looking back, it's like it needed to happen to get me to where I am now. But I've always loved fitness and wellness, but conditioned into the system of, there's 3 meals a day, snacks, and eating animal products. And I went into some fitness modeling and I just got wrapped up into this yo-yo dieting, restricting, calorie counting, and it was messy. And I look back on very sad times because it was just that there was just an obsession, or it was also, and I noticed it was most people as well around me. It was a normal thing. You always, you go to the gym, you train constant, 2 or 3 hours sometimes at the gym, but people around me were doing the same thing. And I was a personal trainer and I was teaching the classes, doing various things, but the diet was just not supporting what I was doing. I was always exhausted, and then I'd only have the energy to train, and then it was just a struggle for a while. And over the journey, discovering different diets, being on every single diet, and then I found veganism. Well, I came over to Thailand 13 years ago, and I met a fruitarian, and that actually shifted my whole like way of thinking about food and how, because I was just tired of yo-yoing, like most of us, using food to suppress, to comfort, and to soothe the pain. So I went on a quite a journey from then, about 13 years ago, discovering what is really happiness. Where can I find fulfillment in my life? And I was searching for something more, and I knew I was a dreamer. I was destined for more, and I know that was part of why I was doing. I wasn't where I wanted to be, and I was just so used to seeing, skinny girls in the modeling industry and also in magazines, and being in the fitness industry. Everyone was always about, oh, to lose weight, you calorie restrict, and then you're constantly on that cycle of restricting your calories. You get to 800 calories, and then you're like, you're messing your whole metabolism. And it was just just back and forth. So I discovered, yeah, veganism, so fruitarianism, but I felt it was extreme back then. Like I was like, "What? This is totally way over my head." But I was interested. I'm curious. I've always had an open mind, and I like, and through traveling, that's encouraged that. And then I went down that path of discovering other people who are fruitarian or raw vegans. And at first I went vegan, and then I dropped the alcohol as well. I was a weekend drinker, as you would say, drinking lots on the weekends and eating rubbish takeaways. My whole family, when I look back, it was full of junk food. And God bless the souls, you know, we don't. I'd come from Yorkshire, a little city in the northeast of England, and the way we eat was so unhealthy. You know, a lot for me it was massive binge eating of chocolates and cakes. That was my favorite, and takeaways at the weekend. And
Hmm.
then I would out train. I used to out train a poor diet, and I did go through phases of not looking in shape, but I was never overweight. But out because I would restrict, and yeah, and then I discovered veganism, but I realized soon that veganism really uh, wasn't that healthy when you're eating so many heavy starches, and I was eating the mock meats and a lot of junk vegan foods. But the ethical really sat with me because the guy that I met who was fruitarian, we was all sat around the table at this dog rescue, the biggest in Asia, in Phuket, and we were discussing about the dog meat trade and how horrendous it was. And I couldn't believe that they ate dogs and cats. I was like, this is what people do. Like, and then he just said it's the only same thing as we eat in cows, chickens, and pigs. The light bulb went off. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't. I love animals. I volunteer rescues, not even just for dogs. I've done wildlife centres, you know, volunteered. They even worked at wildlife centres, and I'm always advocating about the welfare of animals, and I'm sat there eating animals, and so that was instant. That transformation was pretty much instant, just barring a couple of things in that transition where I didn't know, maybe a couple of products that I was like, oh, I didn't realize that I had milk in. So I started that journey, and then just more and more as I delved into veganism and knowing about raw veganism through my friend who was a fruitarian. Now is a fruitarian still. That was 13 years ago, and it's taken me. I would say it. I went about 8 years ago high raw, and then I went fully raw 4 years ago, and it was just through the journey of exploring, experimenting, and how does it make me feel. As soon as I knew that I could eat, for me, I just never wanted to restrict again. I don't want to be in that cycle, that paradigm of restriction, and because then it never ends. And this is where I help others with their binge eating and the comfort eating, that we don't need to restrict.
Hmm.
We can eat in abundance, but it's the right foods. And I use other tools to help overcome the reasons why, you know, getting deeper in the reasons why we use food to soothe, to escape, to numb. And there's a couple of things that go on, such that, you know, you start delving deeper into this journey where I was like, so I'm eating rubbish, I'm eating these junk foods because of all these the parasites that are in them, and my gut's craving them. So you can see how
Mm.
they get addictive, and like with the queso morphines in the cheese, the opioids
Hmm.
that you know what makes us feel good. So once I realized, so that's the physiological side. I started to delve in the psychological side, the attachments we have to these foods to help soothe. You know, why do we do those behaviors? And I started to delve deeper into that, and throughout, because I was always in the health industry and helping others lose weight, feel good, but I was not a great. I might have looked at it at times, you know, an advocate, but I was not healthy inside. I was tired all the time. I was binge eating, and sometimes secretly as well. I'd sit in my car for hours after the gym, and I'd eat an abundance of these cakes and chocolates. I just sit there and feeling sorry for myself, and
Hmm.
I just took my power back through learning about the raw living foods, how they make you feel, and the energy they give you, and not say the biggest thing for me was not restricting. I never want to be on that path ever again, and that's why I love this lifestyle. And I've it for me, it's just it's and given now, it's like I wouldn't want any other way. Because now when I do eat some cooked food, I don't feel my best.
Mhm.
I notice my energy levels dip. I notice my mental health's not as strong. I have
Mhm.
so much more clarity and discipline, I would say, and more love to myself when I'm nourishing my body with the right foods,
Mhm.
and delving even more into the esoteric, the spiritual side now, why these foods actually lift, our frequency, our vibrations. I'm super passionate about that, in wanting to explore something deeper within our souls, because it's not just about the who we are right now in this reality. It's how we can really maximize and enjoy this whole, this 3D reality, but also stepping into a much higher dimension where we are in bliss, and that we can heal through the food, and I like to do the meditation. But that's kind of in a nutshell,
Yeah.
where I've come from. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. There's so many there's so many things. You hit all the like the best points. And so like I was like, oh, like there's so many things I'd like to respond to on that. It's just like for example, you're talking about not wanting to not wanting to restrict, and the beauty of the even going plant-based and then going high raw, fully raw plant-based. The beauty is that it's actually damn near impossible to overeat is the beauty in there because of the high raw, the high fiber, high water, low calorie, high nutrition, high nutrient density. And that's like one of the cool features about that. It's one of the things I teach people is like, yeah, you're never going to restrict your portions. You're going to get uh, you're going to achieve your optimal weight, whatever that ends up being for you. And you're going to have a real hard time overeating as long as you're avoiding the refined foods, avoiding the refined oils, and not eating tons of overt fat. Like if you're just, because that's where the overt fats, if you're eating tons of nuts, tons of seeds and stuff, it's easier to go over. But I find that most people don't even digest tons of nuts and seeds very well, anyways. And so it kind of, um, the raw food diet, because it's so human appropriate, so human specific, it sorts itself out. You end up in your optimal health, and it's a beautiful aspect of it. The other thing you were talking about was the gut microbiome and how um, you actually get these signals from the gut microbiome because basically whatever you put in your body is the environment you create in your internal environment, and whatever you put in there, the microbe that digests that and eats that will flourish. And so if you're putting lots of meat and dairy and refined foods and stuff, well, the bacteria and the parasites and the microbes that break that stuff down, that eat that, especially if it's something that doesn't break down very quickly in your body, there you go, and they're ready to go ahead and consume that. And so if you try and fast from those foods, there's a transition period where they're starving and they're having die off and they're saying, you eat, 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 eat. People take that as cravings. People receive that as I'm depleted or I'm losing. And this is, I think the gut microbiome is actually a huge aspect of why some people revert very quickly because they mistake the voices or these neurosignals that come from these microbes in the gut and these parasites and things as true hunger, as true, yeah, that's the best word, is true hunger or a necessity for some nutrient that they're not getting. But in fact, they're just not getting what that microbe likes to eat. And so the beauty of the high raw, high fruit type of diet is that the fruit breaks down so well, so efficiently. Fructose is absolutely the most human appropriate, human specific food on the planet. Basically, you put it in your mouth and it's already diet. It starts diet. You start absorbing fructose from the time it touches your tongue and is basically almost fully digested within 30 minutes or so. And there's hardly anything left for any parasites or microbes or anything to consume at that point. It's just such a clean burning food, etc. And so then you mentioned about the esoteric aspect of things, and then that gets even to, one of the aspects of why the highest monks on the planet are always plant-based, and a lot of them are actually, even in times of old, which is less known about, um, raw fruitarians, raw vegans. And it has to do with just like we just said, like If you're putting the right fuel in the body, then you're not holding on to it, you're not accumulating it, you're not creating an environment for parasites, which are these little voices that are saying, eat this, do that, I need this, you're not okay, da da da.
Mhm.
And anybody who's kind of gotten in the spiritual realm is the root of spirituality is sort of like presence. Are you able to be present and still with the perfection, the perfect expression of creator in this moment? And if you have all these little voices saying, you're not okay, you need this, oh, you should go smoke a cigarette or you should go smoke a joint or whatever, eat this food or that,
Quick fixes.
it's pulling you away from the presence of this moment. And so, and then there's a very physical aspect of, like you were saying, the frequency as well. There's the measurably feelings like care, emotions like care and gratitude are higher frequency than anger and fear. And so there's an aspect, like you said, to spirituality and diet. So that's kind of what I had to say about in response to what you said. And I'll go ahead and just tell a quick snippet of my journey. So basically around the time I was 19 or 20, I was going through kind of a spiritual awakening of sorts after one of the first sort of dark nights of my soul, where I was coming out of that period of angst where you see so much shit that's wrong with the world that you can't figure out why, and you kind of have in this victim stance to it, and you're just like, oh, why God, you know? And I was coming out of this and realizing um, these, you know, the idea of balance and like how at the end of the day, everything's a great conspiracy, and I was realizing it a great conspiracy by the creator, you know, that like taking it and I was having this big awakening, and I was getting into meditation, a little bit of psychedelics and things, and I just had this visceral experience in knowing that I did no longer want to participate in the harming of animals for uh, consumption, and I had for my nutrition. And I had enough knowledge that there were people who had been vegan long term and were doing well and thriving that it appeared that there was no nutritive necessity for animal products, anyways. So then, ethically, with that realization, how could I continue to consume these living, sentient, obviously emotional, caring creatures when there was no nutritive necessity for me to survive and what seemed like to thrive? So,
Mhm.
that was a big first shift for me. I basically went raw vegan overnight. This is about 20 years old. This is 2008. And I did a lot of things right and I did a lot of things wrong with that first bout of raw veganism. I didn't understand the power of fruit enough yet, and I didn't fully understand like the energy, like our metabolism and how where we thrive and that sort of thing. I didn't understand human specific diets yet. And so I did way too many vegetables, not enough fruit, and probably too much fat with like nuts and some nut butters and things like that. And I did this for maybe 2.5 years or so. And I did pretty well. I had a lot of cleansing. I was doing pretty well, let's say that. But I definitely knew that something needed to shift, and I wasn't sure what it was. And this is also in the time, I don't know if you remember in the 2008 time period, the most popular raw food diet was what's it called? Uh, where it's very rich with like all the nut butter cakes and stuff like gourmet raw.
Gourmet. Yeah.
Yeah, gourmet raw. And so I was in Austin, Texas, and this was very popular there. So
Oh, nice.
I didn't have much mentorship. All I know is that if I ate that way, I felt terrible. And I knew if I
Yeah.
ate more vegetables and things, I felt better, but it was still some digestive distress. I didn't have the energy that I knew that I could have. And um, long story short is I ended up meeting my wife in Austin uh, when I was about 23. She had already been vegan for 10 years and practiced a type of veganism that's rooted in something called macrobiotics, which anybody who's heard of
Mhm.
macrobiotics, it's based in chaps, it's very deep philosophy. I still love macrobiotics. I still consider myself macrobiotic as a person who studies yin yang philosophy and how that applies to lifestyle and diet. And it was very, but the dietary recommendations were lots of brown rice, lots of beans, lots of cooked vegetables, seaweeds, some fruit, some salad. And so we did that, and we basically raised our first three children that way. And we did it maybe for 6 or 7 years that way together. And I really knew I was just like, I know that there was so much merit in the raw. Let me back up. I had a lot of breakthroughs when we did that because I was finally feeling like, oh, I'm finally getting the energy I need because I had the breakthrough with the carbs. So now I'm finally getting the carbs that I really needed to like feel like I could, I'm now being the provider for my family. I'm working 40, 50 hours a week, da 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 da. I'm able to do this. But the issue that we were having was again the tendency to want to overeat because you get this rich, starchy food, you put some salty stuff on it and some seasoning, and it's delicious. There's no lie. And the tendency was the desire to eat and then not feel satisfied and then to overeat and then to feel bloated and like and tired after a meal. But then, it'd be okay. And we did that for years. And then we came to a point where we both decided that we were ready to do the raw thing. And um, this actually had to do, it's worth noting, my stepson, who was 9 at the time, he got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and he lived half the time with his dad. They ate basically a standard conventional diet, lots of dairy and things. We were just like, man, is it possible that we could help him out a lot if we did shift the diet? And so we got into Dr. Morse, Dr. Sebi. We learned about the Mastering Diabetes guys, Robbie Barbera and Cyrus Kambata, who are just, brilliant, brilliant guys on the topic of insulin sensitivity and stuff. So we studied some of these guys. We made the shift and we went high raw, um, high fruit, basically overnight. And we did that for a solid 3 years. We even went no salt for a couple years there. And so we were fully raw for that 3 years. And then long story short, and we did well. We did well in a lot of ways. The challenges we faced were just getting the kids to eat enough raw vegetables. And it's just a little because as important as the fruits are, I find there's still a need in this day and age to make sure that you're getting enough minerals. Oh shit, I lost her. I lost Toni. And for y'all watching, I definitely am keeping up with where I was on this story. Here she's back. Hey, you back?
Yeah. I don't know what happened.
Okay,
Sorry.
cool. All right, you're back on both platforms here. So
Yeah.
what I was saying is just in regards to the challenges we had on this high fruit, high roll diet. Well, while we were living in California, it was very expensive. I was buying boxes and boxes and boxes of fruits for
Mhm.
at the time 3 children, my wife and I. And it was a little bit tricky and challenging to get the kids to eat enough vegetables. And so we just felt like we were doing things in the smoothie and stuff like that. That wasn't enough for us to transition. However, to transition back to cooked. However, what happened was we ended up getting an opportunity to go to Costa Rica for a bamboo contract I was going to build. I'm a builder. I've been a builder for a decade, natural builder in California and things like that. And we ended up moving back to Texas in order to bring our stuff to go to Costa Rica to take this building project. And we were so excited about the fruit and continue the raw lifestyle and everything. We left and got back to Texas right as COVID was happening. And we got to Texas and basically all the borders shut down. And it was just like sort of devastating. And under the pressure, and it was during the winter time, and it was just cold, and we were just like, we basically gave in to that craving to just have some cooked food, to go ahead and add some sweet potatoes back into the diet, go ahead and add some, and the kids were begging for it and yada yada. So we ended up doing that. We felt a major dip in the energy when we did that. We got stuck in Texas for a couple of years actually, because it was just like the borders would open and then the borders would close. And long story short is we got a window and we took a different opportunity and jumped to Bali just 2 years back. So
Well,
that's where we're at now. We're in Bali now.
okay.
Since being in Bali, and even in Texas, we brought the raw and, we brought the raw to where we were in the 70% raw, still high fruit, um, range. And since we've been in Bali, we're really in like the 80 to 90% raw range, doing like the way that I eat is fruit all day. And then at dinner time, I do salads, some wakame miso soup, and the starches I do is basically some sweet potatoes sometimes and maybe some steamed veggies. And that has felt like a pretty good balance for now, helping to just like deal with making sure the kids are feeling satisfied as the kids tend to desire more richness, and it's easier to go more richness with a little cooked food than to go and start packing in doing lots of dehydrating and like adding in more nuts and more fats and things. This has been a nice medium for us, and saying that, I also still value and perceive like this fully raw lifestyle. I really like hold it to a very high standard and believe that that's the direction and I'll go some point whenever I have more access to some sprouting stuff and um, when I'm a little less busy with all the building work that I have. So that is, and I have 5 children now. I don't know if I mentioned that. So
Yeah,
you can
I thought you
imagine.
had seven for some reason. 7 or 8 kids. I had 7 or 8 in my head. Wow, five
No, no.
kids. Amazing.
Yeah,
Busy
yeah, yeah.
man.
So you can imagine that meal prep can get a little out of hand at times. So it
Yeah,
definitely has helped just being able to throw some sweet potatoes in the oven or something like that and
yeah.
do that sort of thing. But that's basically
How
where we're
old are
at.
your kids? How
The
old are they?
youngest is 2. He was born in Bali. And then the eldest is my daughter Kaya. She is 12.
Okay,
And then
wow. So young.
my stepson Uriah, he's 17 and he's still in Texas and he's getting ready for college and stuff.
Nice. Yeah. And how you finding Bali?
Bali's amazing. As with any place, there's perks and pitfalls. There's more perks than
Mhm.
pitfalls here. Like the fruit
Yeah.
selection is amazing. And I'm working on an amazing building project. I'm a special kind of builder. It's called a biologic builder. So we build like these cool kind of sacred geometry things. I'll send you a photo. And so
Yeah.
I really enjoy being able to do that kind of work. I love
Wow.
just being in the warmth, in the hot, having access to
You
the
said,
beaches. Yeah, so
yeah.
a lot of major perks.
I chose Thailand rather than Bali. I felt Bali was very chaotic for me.
Yeah.
I was exploring. But interesting you said about Costa Rica and that you was going over there. I had my flights booked in May 2020 to go over and it got
Same.
cancelled. I was ready to leave Thailand, explore Central and South America, and it all changed. And now this is, yeah, for now it's the base. But it's right, it's more congruent. Like I get it. When you're in the colder climates, it's more challenging. But I have interviewed those that are making fruitarianism and raw veganism in the colder climates. It depends on what you want, and you've got to find that balance on where you are. And it's a journey. I was raw, very high raw for many, many years. And I did a lot of the cleansing. It was not until I did my juice cleanse in 2020 that I was like, I'm going all raw, fully raw completely. So after that, it changed, yeah, that whole path because I never thought I was going to go fully raw. I was like, nah, I like the comfortability where I was. It was working for me. And then just through the juice cleanse, it cleared so much up by then. I just didn't have the cravings. And because I'm doing so much work, because it's not just about the food, we want to start delving deeper into these patterns that are we attack these attachments that we have to the food.
Yeah.
It's linked. It's both together, and I feel if we work on those, we work on our patterns, have some form of meditation practice, just so you're present along with these raw living foods. Wow, your whole life is not going to be the same. Give it a year. I always say to people, give it a year of full focus. Your life will change. Your patterns, all these addictions, they dissolve, and
Mhm.
you can really, yeah, fast track that period through these cleanses, and the particular ones that for me and what's worked for my clients and others that I've seen is the juice cleansing. We can really fast track that transition and I wish I'd done that years ago. But when I did attempt it, I wasn't. I could only do 3 days, 7 days. There's a time, there's a period, and I utilised going through a breakup. I felt like I needed a new reinvention, a new reset, and that's why I went and did the juice cleanse. But I had a lot of knowledge by then as well. So I feel those that are stuck in patterns and addictions, meditation and eating as much high raw living foods as we can will help to. You touched on yeah, with the microbiome, you can really. I focus on detox building. I'm in the building phase right now, but we have to go through a detox
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to clear. to clear the gut. That's it's all about elimination. And if you really want to get rid of your cravings, if you really want to start eating better and looking better, then you gotta go through that process of detox. And you can do that through raw living foods over time. The more and more you incorporate, you're gonna go through detox, because especially when you get them cravings. But you can fast track that through a cleanse, so you're not
Hmm.
having any digestion of foods. You're getting the calories, you're getting the vital nutrients, you're getting all those minerals, but really clear. You can still do your everyday things, with the juice cleanse,
Yep.
but it really stops that digestion so that we can clear out, get the lymphatic system moving, and then focus on the building phase. So I've got a client with me now. Actually, he's lost in 3 weeks. He lost 2 stone. I don't know what you were working actually. What's that? 2 stone? Is it 30 kilograms? 30 kilograms, I think. He's lost quite a bit, and he's in two. No, was it 2.5 stone in total? So in 2.5 months, he's
That's
lost a lot
incredible.
of weight. Yeah, he's amazing, and he's on the juice cleanse now. He even went to go and do Mai Tai because he was feeling good. He had all his energy after like 2 weeks. He started to do. He wanted to do Mai Tai training after. So I told him to hold off, but he insisted, and he went and did after 3 weeks, after his cleanse, his first juice cleanse, started to do Mai Tai training, got injured because obviously he built a lot of lactic acid. This is why it takes, there's certain things that we need to know about. That's why people give up so soon, like when they experience detox or they get any injuries or whatever, they stop the process. And I'm like, this is a time to get deeper.
Yeah.
And anyways, he's come back to me now. He's learned that okay, he needs to rest and rejuvenate and focus on that one thing at a time. Then we can build. And I've noticed now with my building, my strength, like I've never been this strong in my life. Like I used to
Hmm.
go to the gym, I say it all the time. Obviously, I wasn't resting enough. Now I go regularly. I'd say 4 or 5 times a week, sometimes more, but not for very long. And I don't even, and I'll have sometimes weeks off. Like I had a couple of weeks off pretty much over the Christmas period. I've come back stronger. My recovery is really quick because I've got the
Hmm.
oxygenated blood. I just feel good. Everything's much more effortless in
Hmm.
my training. I'm always even pushing. I'm like, I need to do more. Like I want to build strength, but I also don't want to get too. Now my concern is I don't want to get too ripped because I still want
Yeah,
my
yeah.
femininity. Because some people were asking me, why aren't you doing bodybuilding? I was like, I don't. For me, I don't want that physique.
It's not your
I still
goal.
want to be feminine. It's not my goal. I want to still have that, and this is what I want to. I've noticed a lot of people coming to me like, "Oh, Toni, I don't want to be as lean as that." I said, "Well, you don't. You can still have your feminine. You can still look good, but weight loss is never going to be an issue again.
Yeah.
The this lifestyle. And you are right about the nuts and the seeds. I definitely overindulge in the periods that I do, and I go through my cycle with sometimes indulgent, and it's sometimes necessary depending on my hormones through the cycle. And this is
Hmm.
where I teach women where that when they're going through the hormonal cycle, when especially through just before and during their menstrual cycle. But most of the time I'm low fat. I would say under 15%, and that's where that's my sweet spot. So you
Hmm.
figure out where you're at in your journey, and everyone's different. You tweak things, but because
Hmm.
I do notice a dip in my energy in the nuts and the seeds, and that makes sense. They're heavier. You're not used to the heavier foods because pretty
Hmm.
much I'm fruit based. Mostly fruit. And my day looks like people ask me what do you eat? I said just fruit really.
Fruit.
Most
Yeah.
days it's fruit, mono meals. And
Yeah.
I used to start with like the heavy bananas. Now it's more, I do like more watermelon, more fruitier water fruits. So watermelons, I love my juices. And mostly, yeah, mango. I love mangoes, but mono meals because I know I love my digestion loves me back
Yeah.
for that. And this has just been part of the process because at first I was heavy on the smoothies, the bananas, the heavier foods, and I felt I needed it. I went through a phase of really packing in the calories
Hmm.
and because I'd come from restriction. So I packed in. I was just like, I just want to go raw or high raw as much as I can. So I was doing the raw until dinner for 6 years. And I loved that. I loved my cooked meal at night. But the more raw days, I just thought, I'm just gonna have another raw day, fully
Yeah,
raw,
yeah.
see how I feel. And I felt great. And I noticed that's when, okay, I'm going to start letting go of more of these cooked foods. And that's when I noticed the attachments. I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
attached to
yeah.
these starch. Like I used to feel they were okay, they're good, and but then you start adding all the salts and the fats together and so much. Even still, when I had just had potatoes, I just noticed I never really sensed, like I focus on satiety sensing, so knowing when we're full, that listening to our body because we've lost that.
Mm,
And I noticed that goes away. You don't really have that when you're eating starches. It's really with the raw foods, you get back in tune with your
hmm
body. It's
hmm
much more easy. Um, so I feel if you can really connect, you've got to find where you're at in your journey, and everywhere everyone is on a different, different part of that. But my goal was never to be fully raw and just over progression, just because of the cleanse I did and the the benefits you get from it. Like with my training, I can keep lean all year out. Not I do less than I've ever done, and I keep lean. And I like it's effortless. That's what
Yeah.
I enjoy about it. I'm like, wow, and I feel my best. I'm stronger than I ever have, and that not having that addiction, the attachments to the foods was a big one for me. Letting go of that. We all have addictions. Most people have the food addiction. We use food for many reasons,
hmm
but it's usually, for many, it's the alcohol and the drugs and smoking. I never smoked, and I stopped drinking alcohol over 13 years ago. I think going up to 14 years now. And then mine was the food. That was my biggest thing I wanted to overcome, and that's what I help others with is coming off that cycle of the food addiction. That's suppressing us, we're numbing and escaping, using it for the wrong reasons or the reasons that aren't going to serve us, physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually. So it's about tapping back into our alignment and discovering who we really are in this world, in what our purpose and what really fuels us and nurtures us, and not using the food to do that. Food is it can be enjoyable, it's pleasurable. I love what I eat, but it's more for like fueling my cells to give me that energy and the drive every day. And interesting because you're right with when you've got a physical job. That was I was very active and still working in the gyms and things like that. And I was like, okay, I need to make sure I get the calories as a must, but also I wanted that satiation, because especially at
Mm.
first, because I bet for you as well, like the sat, because you start to lose. I bet you feel when the fruit strips fat. Do you find the fruit just strips the fat off you really easy? So sometimes now the problem is keeping that keeping some fat on.
Yeah, I feel fortunate to have basically maintained a similar weight for 15 years or so. And I attribute it to no, I got pretty skinny actually in the first round of raw. And I think that's probably because I was really, if I were tracking the calories, I was probably pretty kind of low on the calories. And I wasn't doing any fitness training. I was like 21-year-old yoga boy in Austin, just having a good time. And
Yeah.
but then since then, um, just eating to satiation, like never restricting portions, never really tracking calories or protein or anything like that. Whenever and I've gone in and out of my own calisthenics routines based upon how busy I am, whether we were going through a move or something like that to another house, we've moved 5 or 6 times. And what I noticed is that whenever I would stop doing my workout, which I'll kind of tell, like I do pretty minimal type of calisthenics just based upon the amount of time that I have to put towards fitness these days. Whenever I'm not in that routine, I ended up being around, I don't know how many kilos it is, but it's about 150 pounds. And whenever I add 2 hours of calisthenics, which is push-ups, pull-ups, squats, different variations. Something I call high intensity, low volume, because the high intensity is that I'm pushing each exercise to that failure point, to where I can't go through the full range of motion for another rep. When I add that into my life, within about 6 months to 8 months, I have put on 15 pounds or a little over around 3 kilos or so. Is that what it is? About 15 to 20 pounds of muscle. And that's not really changing anything about the diet. so much, besides possibly having a slightly bigger appetite
Yeah.
for a meal after a workout or something like that. Um, and what I noticed is that I felt whenever I went fully raw, I felt, and with the high fruit focus this time, I felt more explosive, more energetic, less of a dip after meals, almost no dip after a fruit meal. That's the beauty of the fruit meals is like it's just so optimal for us. We digest it so well. And I built muscle in just as efficient and robust way, this very lean, healthy feeling muscle. And so actually one thing that I try and make to clarify for people and the people who are receiving my message and the clients that I work it with is that it's totally natural to want to build a healthy, strong, athletic, muscular body. There's maybe a tinge of vanity in that, and I think that that is sort of that's actually kind of built into the human system. It's like, yes, we want to
Yeah.
look fit for the opposite sex. That's part of what makes us look like, oh yeah, maybe a good idea to combine our DNA and create progeny. Like it's sort of built in to want to look attractive for the opposite sex. And um where where things have gotten out of hand is whenever and let me back up. And it's very natural to build a athletic and aesthetic muscular physique with natural types of movements. In times of old, people were farming, people were building, people were walking, running, climbing, all sorts of stuff, and eating human appropriate diets were already lean and having some muscularity to them, etc. And this is what I would call functionally fit. They were able to move their bodies, they were able to lift things, and they were strong and healthy. Uh, where gets out of hand is that in this day and age where there's more and more office jobs and where there's been more and more time to do things, to put more and more time towards uh, weightlifting, where there's more and more nutrition available so people can take in excess protein, excess calories, etc., then there things like Hollywood and now perpetuated by social media is this false image of masculinity, or even this false image of femininity, where everybody wants the butt to be this big and the implants and all that in the sense of femininity, whereas and those are natural aspects of femininity, like the breasts represent the ability to nourish children and the hips represent the ability to birth children. So these are natural things that are attractive to a male. And I'm talking like very sort of binary. I'm not going to get into all the gender
Mhm.
stuff here, but um, we in the sense of the masculine, it's this masculine quality is the ability to provide, to lift, to do these sort of masculine traits. And some of the physical traits of that are this muscularity. And where we've taken it in this era is this excess, this accentuation and exaggeration of that to where we have bodybuilding. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but what I'm wanting to tell people is that that is beyond what is really like natural, and that is beyond
Yeah.
what actually creates holistic health, because as we see, there's always a trade-off for something that's out of nature. If you're trying to build this excessive physique, excess muscle, you're going to need to take in excess protein. You're going to need to spend lots of time in the gym. You're going to be
Yeah.
trading time with your family. You're going to be trading time on your careers, unless you're a bodybuilder, of course. And you're going to be needing to, once you build that muscle, you're going to be needing to maintain it. You're going to have to eat more calories. You're going to have to pay more for food. And
It's our cost, it's our consequence, isn't it?
your lifespan is going to be shorter. I mean, this is just
Yeah.
across the board. These guys, they don't live that long, for the majority, because they're really trading their with the anabolic steroids. They're
Yeah.
getting, and with the excess animal products, they're getting heart disease. They're having kidney issues, and so there's
They
an
don't
absolute
feel as good. Yeah, they're not daily, they're not feeling their best.
yeah. See some of the guys who have
It's
retired, and they just talk about how their joints are all wrecked, and
yeah.
so that's the one of the things that I kind of I present to people is like, I'm not promoting that. If you are into that, then you go talk to, I encourage you to be, plant-based if you will, because I'm under the strong opinion based upon my own experience and upon the vast amount of nutritional data that I've seen that a plant-based
Mhm.
diet creates most positive health outcomes and is most associated with longevity, along with it's the most sustainable to produce now even though there's a lot of issues with conventional agriculture, it has the most potential for the best uh, environmental and ecological production. Also, I didn't mention I have a degree in plant and soil sciences, so I wrote my papers all on dietary choice and planetary sustainability. So that's a big passion of mine as well. And then as well as the compassion and this like ability to spare the lives of these obviously emotional, sentient, very similar to us beings. I tell people like that I am the poster child for the type of health and physique that I promote. I call it a ninja physique because it would most likely be this type of physique would be most similar to a warrior of old, lean, athletic, agile, functionally fit,
Agile. Yeah.
and not requiring tons of extra calories and da 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 to keep it, and not requiring tons of exercise, but you could practice on your martial arts or whatever it was. And what I tell people is that I speak to an audience being the busiest people who want to achieve optimal health, to achieve their optimal weight, to feel energy levels like they've never felt before, and to be able to build a strong, athletic, muscular, yet not overbuilt physique with around 2 hours of calisthenics a week. And so that's kind of like the core message that I have there. And the one other thing I wanted to speak to that is uh, one of the core tenets of my message as well is you were talking about how when you have excess fat or excess nuts or anything like that, you do feel a dip in the energy. And and this is a universal sort of experience. And this is one of the coolest things that my clients get to experience whenever they start paying attention to their fat intake is whenever you get below that 20% range, then you start to metabolize carbohydrates really
Mm.
well.
Yeah.
And the science behind that, and this is where getting into the mastering diabetes guys. Uh, I highly encourage anybody who's interested in this topic to read Mastering Diabetes, or even to just search up their YouTube and connect with these guys on the socials. They're the leading
Mm.
biochemists and on insulin sensitivity and how our pancreases function, how we digest carbohydrates. What the science shows us is that whenever you get above that 15 to 20% range of fat, then you the insulin is no longer able to get into the receptor sites. You can't get the glucose in. You end up with high blood sugar, low energy, and
Mm-hmm.
you end up feeling sluggish and tired, and you end up with this glucose in the blood, which creates a lot of issues. But whenever you find that perfect ratio for yourself, a lot of people it's 15%. I promote 20% because I'm wanting to help as many people who are in the transitionary process to go ahead and make the transition into a plant-based diet and then go for as much raw, bring the fat down to the most optimal level, etc. 20% allows for plenty of richness. People can enjoy lots of richness in their
Mm.
food, but
Satiation.
still get really good insulin sensitivity and experience that experience I'm talking about, where you're just like you eat that fruit and boom, you have that energy and you're having energy all day, no problem. Uh, that's what I promote to people. So I tell people, uh, transition to a whole food plant-based diet, keeping the fat at 20% or below. I teach them how to use Chronometer just to like get in touch with what that looks like. Not telling you need to track your calories and track your macros forever, but look at associate what
Initial.
you yeah, associate the macros with how you feel. You can see it's about an avocado, a little bit of walnuts, and some chia seeds or something like that per day. And from there, people have a visceral experience of their energy going up, and then they don't have to rely on the chronometer anymore, etc. And then I encourage them all to go in the direction of always more fruit. Anytime you want to snack, do fruit. Try and keep it separate from your cooked meals, and try and even eat fruit for breakfast. If you feel
Mm.
good on that, do fruit for lunch.
Yeah.
And good, better, best is kind of the framework
Mm.
that I use. Is like go for good, go for best, but start with good, build up to better, um, aim for best in the long run, but find something that you can sustain. Find what that feels like, so you have contrast of the next level, so you can really
Mm.
experience what happens when you indulge, what route you can experience whenever you fast. And whenever you have enough of that pattern recognition, that's where the wisdom, the experiential wisdom comes. And you're like, all right, I think I'm ready to go up to the next level. And so that's kind of the process that I go through. what kind of recommendations do you have? I know that you have the idea of like doing the cleanse, which is kind of that's an amazing, powerful way to do a reset and to go from that point. But I'd love it if you could just share some of your recommendations for people who are thinking about transitioning, and perhaps some of the services that you offer.
Yeah, for me, it's all about rituals and the intentional rituals that you have on a daily basis. It's sustainable when we have something that can you can do consistently and it works for you. And it's all about exploring and what others are sharing what's worked for them. And like through my experience among my clients, having your book ends of your day mastered, like they're crucial for any success in your life. And there'll be different rituals that you can utilize, but I would say the most powerful ones. And so I class the book ends of the day because then everything in between is just that's how things fall into place very easy. If you start your day with positive rituals, habits, that really sets the tone for your day. And then closing your day, reflection. So I reflect on my day, and it's all about mindfulness. If we can move through our lives with mindfulness, but coming back down to just, I mean, this is why the meditation brings you. I get so many downloads every day. I move through my life now with my own inner guidance rather than searching for other inspiration. And it's all helpful, especially when you transition. You want to be looking at others and the way they're living their life, what feels resonant, and then implementing it, applying what you've learned and implementing it. And these rituals really help just structure your day, have it, and then free flow wherever you're necessary if you've got work and things like that. But if you have something that gives you some tangible guidance, because this is practical and people love practical. I'm very practical as well in a lot of areas of my life, in that I know I can then practice my free flow, my feminine energy throughout. But the rituals I do is reflection in your day. So seeing how you felt, what did you eat, what did you consume? So having some, I don't have that now what I'm eating, but just initially, like you were saying, like that initial, what I do is, yeah, I see how much they're eating. We'll look at the calories, we'll look at the macros. But the real goal for me is that intuition. Let's just be present in every time we eat. So let's reflect on the day. Was you present? How can you move through your day with more intention? So the end of the day is just reflection, and then having that meditation to bring those questions, the answers to light, and then just journaling, writing down on those reflections. I do enjoy having like asking myself what went well, what could have been better. And I'm always looking at, it's always about the questions we ask to get those deeper connection to ourselves and knowing where, yeah, what has served us and what hasn't served us. I'm always looking at bettering my questions rather than my answers. So what are the questions that I can ask myself that can help me expand? I'm always about expansion, but in alignment. So that gives me some basis, and then I know exactly what I'm doing the next day as well. Like if I was in the early days, I would focus on watery fruits as my first meal of the day. How can I start my day up with the best instead of heavy? Because back in the day, I used to have bacon sandwiches, like bacon butters we call them. Like, oh my gosh, I'm starting my day with these heavy foods,
Yeah, it's
and
hard to
I'm just,
imagine now.
it's crazy. Yeah, having any, and then it was obviously the cereals. I used to eat a full box of cereal at one point when I like breakfast and eat it throughout the morning, and just listen, like just figuring out, okay, how is this making me feel? So
Mm.
the focus is really in the mindfulness, and then writing that down. Okay, how did I feel when I ate that today, and what did I what was I doing? Why was I doing it? What was my reason? Was it just out of habit? Because that's what everyone did, everyone around me, like my father, every weekend we'd have cooked breakfasts for Saturday and Sunday. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I just had to drop things so that, like they were saying, just your first meal, have fruit. So I started with that. Any fruit. And I was having these 10 banana smoothies because I was like, I want to feel full still. And then
Mhm.
now it's not, like watery foods as my
Mhm.
first meal. And I don't even follow the whole what time to eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks.
Hmm.
I eat pretty much on average what I've found works for me is the 2 meals a day, and I usually eat after 12 o'clock midday. My
Hmm.
mornings, I get up at 5, 6 a.m. and I'm on for that's my I've noticed now my optimal where I'm feeling my best. And then having your rituals in the morning. So having I would say it's called the Power Hour. I can't remember the author. There's many books, but the Power Hour was something that really transformed the way I live and starting my day, and it's really incredible. I now have what works for me is the Power Hour is the 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of reading, a positive, changing your perspective, an uplifting book, and 20 minutes of movement, which now is usually longer because I go to the gym, I walk the dogs. But my movement would be classed as the dog walking, and I'm always out with the dogs every day. And then those three together, oh, and that it really you're setting yourself up for the day where you can you're not in a I don't look at my phone, I don't rush my day, and I focus on okay, where can I be more at peace and in calmness? So that's the first. I thought if I'm doing that, I'm not then mindlessly eating and doing things that I don't enjoy. I become more in tune. I realize, okay, I'm doing that because I'm not happy in where I am. So
Hmm.
rituals will really serve you. Finding the rituals that work for you. Some people like it, like you was the yoga. That could be for you. But it could even just be fat. If people have got that hour, it might just be 5 minutes of each of those three. Find the rituals that serve you. You could even, if you're maximizing on time, you could go for a walk and listen to an audio so that you
Hmm.
are doing the kind of the reading. But implement that into your life and see the change. And that just sets everything, obviously, sets the tone. So for me, I like the practicals. And when we do the meditations, like I have an app, a Rolicious app that helps all of my tools combined together over the years. That's worked for me and seen the success for me and my clients. And I know we're all about fast track, so I don't always want to encourage it, but I know people want to see results quickly. So
Hmm.
I've found the rituals that give maximum results and maximum benefits. So
Yep.
having those will then encourage the mindfulness throughout the day. Why do you do why you're not like say you're not stress eating, and then we get to deeper levels in my coaching where we can go through some guided meditations and other tools that have helped me on my journey to the because it's the raw foods are important, it's the foundation, but really it's the rituals, the daily, consistent, the compound. Have you read the book, Darren Hardy, Compound Effect, and also this
No, I've
Slight
not
Edge
read those.
by Jeff Olson? Oh, they're amazing on just the little things we do every day can totally change the trajectory of our lives and how we
Hmm.
live. And it's so minuscule, but you can either gain weight or you can maximize on health. So I look
Right.
at the little details every day what we're doing. So when you have these rituals and the mindfulness, it's going to give you that awareness to then change, and that's why change happens. And yeah, I think the rituals are probably the key, having serving, especially in the morning, the bookends of your day.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, and I think you just spoke a lot to the fact that there's so much more to it than just diet. It's lifestyle. And so yeah, and I have a lot of similarities to what you're talking about as well. Like one of the key foundational elements of the Plant Ninja program is developing a morning and nighttime routine. And within that is like I basically give a toolkit of here's your toolkit and try and be realistic with the amount of time you have between here and here. I happen to have 5 children and work 40 to 50 hours a week as a builder, so I get up at 4 a.m. and I have
Yeah,
I have maybe an hour of personal time before I'm just like prepping some food and things for the family and stuff. But yeah, maybe try and fit in a couple of morning routines and some food prep or something like that before you go onto your thing. It's obviously different for each person, but uh, the point here is that I definitely also still think that's super important is when once you've done set a powerful morning and a powerful nighttime routine, the middle of the day so much
Easy.
more easily falls into place.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Um, yeah, and so I guess just to you, what I in my program I touch on, I focus on four main modules, and it's going to be mindset, uh, whole food plant-based diet, 20% calories from fat, and aiming for 50% as a starter raw, and then moving up through that, focusing on removing all the refined foods and the oils and things like that from the diet. And the low volume, high intensity calisthenics, which is 1 to 2 hours of simple calisthenics. And there is different levels to that because you can, once you start doing enough calisthenics, you start to get to where you can do more and more reps and you stop building muscle and you start building endurance, as I'm sure you know. And so I teach people when they're ready for that how to do simple modifications to increase intensity. So you're not doing tons and tons of reps. You're able to reach that failure point with less and less reps. So you're still doing 30 minute, 30 to 40 minute calisthenics workout and getting progressively building those muscles. And then the final one is lifestyle optimization, which is where we've taken the tools from the previous three modules and you are plugging it into your morning routine, your nighttime routine, and then obviously you're going to have a lunch somewhere in there and you're going to, most people are, it just depends on what your lifestyle is, where you're going to get your workout in, that sort of thing. And that's basically the framework for the Plant Ninja program. And it's literally a reflection of how I live my life. And so that's what I promote is like, yep, this is me. This is what I do. And these are the results. And many people are experiencing similar results. So it's a joy to share that in that way. You know, we're on that hour mark. I think this is a great place to kind of wrap up our conversation. This has been a really amazing way to get to know each other and just be sort of like an open conversation. And I'd love to have another conversation a little further down the line where maybe we make a theme and then we talk kind of more
yeah.
specifically to a theme. This has been like I said, just a great intro with you. Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram's so Rollish as you
Okay.
and
I'll put
Instagram,
everything in the
Facebook.
description too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Rollish Living. Raw Living is the free support group with over 63K members. So if you are new to this is a great place to have that community. But if you want to take it to the next level, I've got the one-on-one coaching. I'm going to be offering a particular program very soon, but I do one-on-ones and I've got the Rawlicious app where everything's in one place, the whole lifestyle. We've got the recipes, we've got the meditations, the rituals, we've got the workouts as well, all in one place. A very low ticket. So that's for those that are really wanting that sustainability, that accountability, because that's what we need. You know, we've got so much knowledge out there, but having that accountability in the community is what really helps us succeed and make this much more enjoyable. I just wanted to also ask you, Josh, because I feel like you are such a great representation. The more because like I know you experienced, you lost a lot of weight on this lifestyle when you first started, and it's a great thing for those females that want to lose weight, and we do. But yeah, it's great to see that the men are coming in with this plant-based diet, like you, Ted Cash, and Sterling, are showing that you can look absolutely incredible, feel incredible. It's a win-win, and the animals, it's good. It's a win-win for everyone, and I'm so happy to have had this conversation with you to find more like-minded souls that are showing that we don't have to be weak, we can be lean, and we can feel great. And they say no, with no harm to animals.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for sharing your message and what you're doing. It's such a crucial, yeah, part in this movement that it is. We do all want to look and feel our best. There's nothing wrong
Absolutely.
with that. You touched on it earlier. There's nothing wrong with that because I went through that period of, well, I don't want to show, the athletic side, but it's important. People want to show that we're you can still look good, and but because before you go through a period of at the cost of your health, like looking
Mm-hmm.
good. Like you see, most, like you said, they're taking all of these unhealthy substances and things at the cost of the health, and now we don't have to, and we can do less, and we're showing them a bit more efficient, effective ways, which is then a win-win for everybody. So yeah, I'm grateful for you, and that's why it's so important to bring this message in our own ways. And I'm focused on helping those that have got these food addictions, that want to
Mm-hmm.
look good, that actually want to live a life that isn't so absorbed into binge eating and comfort eating.
Exactly.
So we're all bringing our message, and it's the same message, but just in a different way. So
That's beautiful. I really appreciate the service and the message that you're bringing because it is so important, and yet it has so much to do with human health in general. Is uh, to aim for what is more natural and healthy rather than this, short-term gratification, addictive sort of behaviors, this binge eating, that sort of thing. So it's really important. I actually just did in regards to what you were saying um, about not being vegan, and a man doesn't have to be weak, or it's not less masculine or something like that. I just did a interview with my friend Alex Lambert from the Light Leaders podcast, and the theme was fruit-based alpha. And all we just talked about is sort of jokingly, because what is an alpha, what is masculinity? But what one of the questions that was posed was, um, if a man or someone uh, was able to be a protector, to be a provider, to build a strong physique, and they were able to do so without harming an innocent and defenseless being, would that be more or less masculine than somebody who did all that other stuff and did harm or commodify an innocent, defenseless being? And I think the obvious answer is that to defend and to preserve and to protect is a masculine trait, is a more masculine trait. Of course, the controversy comes down to, is there nutritive necessity or not? Da 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 da. More and more people like you and myself are going to uh, be the role model for what's possible, and that speaks more than any amount of data out there. So, um, thanks so much for bringing your message as well. I'm going to keep bringing mine, and we'll chat a little further down the road. I'll put your contacts in the description. Anything else you want to say? Any closing words before we hop off of here?
no, just know that this is a path of such a beautiful awakening. So it's a great compliment to those that I see a lot of shifts happening with a lot of people in their spiritual journey. So I want to help them navigate through that in a way that is a much more pleasant and serving win-win. So yeah, if you're listening, I'm so grateful for those that are interested. There's some resonance there, and I love like being around this similar to these thought leaders who just maximizing on this way of living that is no, it's like I said, it's a win-win for everyone. So it just makes sense. It's beautiful. So thank you so much, and thank you for having me on, and thank you for those that are
Absolutely.
listening.
Yeah, and I just want to speak to both of our audiences. For all the people in your audience, I'm sure you're a little heavier on the women in your audience. If you've got a husband, he needs a little assistance or wants to just connect. Like, I'd love to just connect. I talk to anybody who messages me, and if they want a little bit more support and somebody to, because so much of this is like feeling accepted and seen. Tell them to message me. Let's connect. And the same for my audience is that there's some women who Toni is, more of a model for, because I can most easily speak and promote the type of lifestyle I live to men, being a man myself. If there's any people in my audience, definitely get in touch, in contact with Toni, because she's obviously a beautiful model of health and vibrance on a raw food, high fruit diet.
Thank you.
So with
Yeah.
that, yeah, we'll hop off here and stay tuned. We'll do another one soon.